So with Theresa May's Brexit deal, supposed deal, being slammed by MPs across the board, from Labour to Tory and everywhere in between, it's looking increasingly likely that her deal will be slapped down in a vote in the Parliament, with Labour declaring its MPs will be whipped to vote against it, and all this other kind of stuff. No word yet on whether the Tory MPs will be whipped to vote for it. However, I have heard a couple of Tory MPs. One went as far as to say that he had told his whip he would not vote for it if they put a shotgun in his mouth. So I don't think that the Conservative whip is going to be very effective this time around. But it's looking increasingly likely. In fact, I'd go as far to say it's practically certain that her deal will not make it through a vote in the Parliament. This leaves us with a variety of different options. First of all, it could trigger another general election. This could be very interesting, given that at the last election, Jeremy Corbyn's Labour won the equivalent number of votes that Tony Blair won. Tony Blair won in 2001. And that was at sort of the height of his popularity, if you will. So that was very, very interesting to see. And the Tories very nearly lost power. They went into that election with the idea of increasing their majority so they could do Brexit business in particular a lot more effectively through Parliament. Ended up losing it, and now they're having to go with the DUP case by case to push their things through, push their bills, etc. through Parliament. The DUP themselves have said that they do not like anything really about this deal, particularly in regards to Northern Ireland. So it's looking very likely. We could have another general election, in which case I do believe Labour will probably win at least a minority government. Labour will probably get through. That leaves Jeremy Corbyn handling the Brexit business, and I don't think he's going to be very, very good at that, because he's not showing any initiative. He's not really showing any sort of willingness even to address the whole Brexit situation. He doesn't really seem to know where he stands. He says one thing, his party says another. So it's kind of all muddled with Corbyn on the Brexit issue. Domestically, as I always said, Corbyn has brilliant policies that will improve workers' rights and working conditions across the UK, will improve the minimum wage and living standards across the board. But with Brexit, I'm still unsure as to whether this is the right time for a Labour government. I think, part of me thinks the Tories, they got us in this mess. Let them get us out of it, and then we can fuck them off and get Labour in to deal with the working conditions, etc., and the domestic side of things. So that could happen. Another thing that could happen, with the building number of votes of no confidence reportedly being filed against Mrs May, we could have a new Tory leader. It would be the third one in about 10 years that we've had. Let's think, we had Cameron started in 2010, he was Prime Minister for 5 years or so, then he stepped down, then Theresa May. So yeah, in under 10 years we would have had 3 Tory leaders. Now, David Cameron was better than Theresa May by far, as much as I disagree with practically everything that man did. He was better at speaking, he was a better public figure. He was more of a politician and more of a leader than Theresa May. Theresa May just stumbles and stutters and panics and flaps her way from interviews. And it got so bad at the last general election that she actually refused to debate other party leaders on the campaign, because she knew how bad she was. So that we could see another leader, which, looking at the path that the Tories have been taking with their leaders lately, it doesn't look good. I mean, we could get Bojo the clown, the man who can't even operate a fucking zip wire, Boris Johnson, who says black people have Piccaninny smiles. Now, we called them Piccaninnies, said they had watermelon smiles, I beg your pardon, who wrote an article in a newspaper, yes, defending women's rights to wear a hijab in the UK, but also saying that they look like ninjas and letterboxes and bank robbers. Now, I'm all for offensive humour. That's fine by me. I love offensive humour. I would probably have made a couple of those jokes themselves. However, I'm not fucking foreign secretary as he was at the time. I'm not trying to run a government. And if I were to make those jokes, they would be in good context, in good humour. They wouldn't be just because. So we could have him. We could have Jacob Rees-Mogg, the epitome of Victorian poshness. That fucking haunted pencil cunt. That man who said that abortion is wrong, even in circumstances of rape. He believes abortion is wrong because his Catholic beliefs tell him that that's the case, while simultaneously owning shares in companies that manufacture and distribute abortion pills, I must add. The man who would have our kids up sweeping fucking chimneys after Brexit. You want him as your fucking leader, as your Prime Minister? Come on, we could have him. We could have Jeremy Boring Cunt Hunt, the man who practically raped the NHS while he was Health Secretary, and he's now Foreign Secretary. So that man is just a drip. There's nothing to his character. He fucked over the NHS. Now he's fucking over the fucking Foreign Secretary side of things. Clever him. In fact, I'll just name me one Tory MP that would make a good leader right now. Seriously, who would be good for this country. And in fact, my money, the one that I support the most out of all of them is Jacob Rees-Mogg, because he will then demonstrate to the wider public how out of touch and backwards the Conservative Party really is, and how they have no place in modern progressive politics in the UK for me. None at all. Their ideas are all backwards. Our own Prime Minister, our own current Prime Minister, for at least the next 5 minutes, actually voted against, in 1998, I think, voted against gay rights and gay equality. She was in a campaign, an election campaign in her local area, Maidenhead, where on her posters, she declared that the only way to curb lesbianism in all-female schools was to have a good male role model, such as the father. This is our leader. The party she represents reflects those beliefs. Now, imagine if someone had said that in Labour. Imagine if a Labour MP had said these horrible homophobic things and had voted repeatedly against gay rights. We'd be calling for Labour to get that bastard out. Why? Because Labour is a more progressive party than the Tories. So it's time that the Tories show that they're progressive, kick out these fuckers that don't want gay rights and gay equality and other kinds of things, kick out these bastards that have all these regressive ideas that take us all back to the fucking 1930s, and let the Tory party, the Conservative Party, become a more traditionalist conservative party with a more traditionalist ideology. Because traditional conservatism is all about looking after yourself. It's all about the market and the government not getting involved and just letting things run and letting people defend themselves and provide for themselves. Now, as much as I don't agree with that, I do believe that the government has to step in from time to time, because capitalism does create inequality. Therefore, I believe socialism is essentially, all socialism is the government stepping in to fill the holes left by inequality created by capitalism. That's all democratic socialism is. So for me, I don't agree with classical conservatism. However, I do respect the views in their core form. But when they come to fruition in politics, we end up with the kind of backwards policies we've had for the last 8 years, which have seen nurses using food banks, which have seen in-work benefits claimants skyrocket, which has seen actual food bank usage itself going through the roof, which has seen 0-hour contracts, bedroom tax, hot pasty tax. Yes, you actually have to pay a tax on a hot pasty. Believe me, working in the bakers, I know. We've just seen all this just dreadful stuff. We've seen this government, the Conservative government, under investigation by the United Nations, the only government in Western world, in the civilized Western world, to ever be investigated by the United Nations for human rights abuses. That should be the end of it. The Tories have no place in their current form in modern society in the UK, in a progressive society. They need to be kicked the fuck out, made to reform and reimagine themselves. And then they can come back in and change a Labour government, which is actually taking the country forward. Now, got slightly sidetracked ranting about the Tories there. What do I want out of this whole Brexit situation? I want Theresa May gone. I'm sick of looking at that fucking ditzy old bitch with her strong and stable fucking sound bites and her running through fields of weak bullshit. She's a weak leader, and this isn't just about her party politics, although that does contribute for me. She's a weak leader. She needs to be kicked the fuck out. In between her going and a Labour government taking power, I reckon we should have Jacob Rees-Mogg, because then he can demonstrate just how shit and out of touch and backwards the Tories really are. Thanks for watching. See you next time.